Hi, everyone. This is Brittany here from College Greenlight. I hope you all are enjoying your block party experience at home with your virtual friends. Um, I am really happy to have our next facilitators joining us today. We are really thrilled to have the dynamic duo, Valencia Jones, Senior Associate Director of Admissions, Access and Access in Special Populations, and Jessica Maurer, Associate Director of Admissions from WashU, presenting insights on how to start your perfect college essay. Additionally, we have Ryan Album from WashU's admissions team joining us in the chat room, answering your questions to the right. Now, audience, are you all getting ready to write the perfect essay? We are really excited to have you all feel confident about this process. And we're very pleased to have Valencia and Jessica joining our College Block Party stage. Hi, team.
Hi, I am Jessica. I am an admissions officer at WashU. I have the privilege of representing Florida and Puerto Rico as my territory. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I wanted to start this off by just acknowledging that we are all in a challenging time. I love that banana bread baking is trending in the chat. I have not made that, but now I am inspired. We also just want to acknowledge that there are many things on your plate. College essay writing might not be top of it. So while we are talking, I know there might be many questions. Do your best to type them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them at the end. But switching gears, we're excited to talk about sharing some tips and best practices about writing your college essays. So let's go ahead and dive right into our next slide. So tip number one is to start early. So you are already thinking about your college essay, and it is April 29th. So we really love that you are thinking about this. So hopefully you have started brainstorming what pieces of your stories that you want to share with us. When you are researching essay prompts, it is very great to understand what application you'll be using. We accept the Common Application, the Coalition, and the QuestBridge. All of them have different writing prompts. I believe they're up to 13 different prompts. One of them might be just share something about yourself. We do have essay prompts for supplemental essays. Each university is a little different about the essays prompts that they have. So as you're thinking of your essays, thinking about the topics that you want to discuss, we know that this time is extremely challenging for many individuals. So you may choose to write about your experience with the COVID-19 pandemic. You may choose not to. We really want to know as much about you so that we could advocate for you in this process. So let's go ahead and go to tip number two. So knowing your audience, you are writing these essays hopefully at home, maybe at outside your home while thinking of the topics at hand. But you also need to think about who will be reading these essays. So for example, we have admissions officers. So I have the opportunity to read applications from Florida, from Puerto Rico, and really get to understand their perspective there. There's also individuals in my office that will read your essays as well. So this is other admissions officers, different leaders in our admissions team, as well as academic professors and deans. For WashU, we have academic deans involved in the admissions process, as well as the opportunity for scholarship opportunities. You really want to make a positive impression. We are trying our best to learn as much about you in a college essay and application as possible. So ensuring that you're making a positive impression. There are a lot of tough topics to cover, especially right now. We know that there are a lot of different challenges. There may have been challenges beyond the pandemic that you want to share with us. So ensuring that you are covering those things that have impacted your life in a really comprehensive way that tells your story. Let's move on to tip number 3. All right, possible other essays. So the number one thing I would tell you is that if a college is asking you to write an essay, it's because we want to learn more about you. We don't want to add additional pieces to your plate that are unnecessary. WashU added a supplemental essay about 2 years ago, and this was critical in us understanding more about our students and finding different pieces to continue to advocate to you in our process. It is safe to say that if we are asking you to complete an essay, we will be reading it, we will be reviewing it, so making sure you take the time to answer each prompt. And again, I will say this over and over, starting early so that you will be able to answer all questions, all prompts with as much care as you want to be giving in this process. Let's move on to tip number 4. Answer the question and follow directions. So one of the biggest pitfalls we see is when a student is really excited to share a story, but it might not be their story. Maybe they're writing about somebody that they really admire. So they're writing about someone else the entire essay and not really writing about how this person has really impacted their life and how this might translate on being on a college campus for the rest of their year. There's other mistakes that are made. So one, intentionally choosing not to use the prompt. I have seen an essay where a student says, this is not the prompt I want to write about, so here's a prompt that I do want to write about. And it wasn't very helpful in advocating for the student. So ensuring that you're following the prompt, you're answering the complete prompt throughout your essay. Another pitfall that we see is when a student decides to use their essay as a narrative resume. We are able to see all the different great things about you, from your extracurriculars to your resume, if you include that. So we really want to know something different about you that we couldn't find in another piece of the application. Overall, we just want to learn more about you and what shaped who you are. Tip number 5. Proofread. It is obviously number one, starting early, but we really want you to proofread it. The number one thing that students, we always recommend to students, is to read your essay aloud. Does it make sense? If I have to reread your essay to understand the points that you're trying to make and what you're trying to share, that might not be the essay for you. I always recommend having at least 2 people read your essay. One person that will be really great at picking out what you might have misspelled, grammatical errors, but also someone that really knows who you are, to say, when I read this, I hear your voice. I hear you reading this aloud to me. And making sure that you are getting advice from other folks. One caveat to this that I will share is that you do not want too many handprints and fingerprints on your essay. So for example, if you get feedback from over 30 people, your essay is not going to sound like you. It's going to sound like those 30 individuals. So keep it small, but keep it a really great group that will give you good feedback, but also will make sure that it sounds like your voice in the essay. Next tip. Is to have fun. So when we are reading your application, we love it when we're able to understand who you are. You're sharing a story that you really are, giving us a piece of you, and it's enjoyable to read. So if you are really interested in a certain topic, dive into it. We want to know more about you. We want to hear what your voice might sound like on our college campus. A reference I always like to make, I am a big fan of Top Chef, and I always can pick out who's going to lose the competition based off of if they were trying to do way too many things. So making sure that you keep it focused and delicious, not delicious, but easy to read and digestible. Next tip. Actually, we're going to go into a quick activity. So for the next minute, I want folks to go ahead and choose 5 words, maybe on this list, maybe not on this list, that describe who you are. And I will share out a few. All right. So folks, go ahead and type in 5 words that describe you either from this list or not. See, Lauren is vibrant, engaged, genuine. I want to read your essay. A leader, like it. Loyal, audacious. Ooh, that is a good one. Optimistic, creative, witty. Great. You all sound amazing. I would love to read all of these essays that really highlight all of these different pieces of you. All right, so next slide is our next tip is to be yourself. Uh, word choice is really important. We know that you are incredibly intelligent and you might know some words that I don't even know. But is the essay the right time to flex that muscle? We want it to be your voice. Use the language that you use every day. So, for example, if the person that you know really well is reading your essay and seeing all these SAT words, and saying you don't say those every single day, why would you say this in your essay? We want it to sound like you and tell a story that only you can tell. We want to be captivated and not proving how intelligent you are, because we know that already. We learn all those different pieces and other aspects of your application. So we are going to go into a brainstorming activity, and it is going to include some music. So I'm teeing that up. So for the next 3 minutes, and we can go to the next slide, finish the following sentence. So go ahead, think about this, and then we will call someone up to the stage, but also you could type it into the chat. Let's go. These are so great. I am almost tearing up because they're so sweet and so genuine. Uh, I don't know if we're able to call someone, Brittany, to the stage to share out what their perfect day would look like.
Hi.
Hi, Danielle.
All
So,
right, go ahead.
all right. My perfect day would be listening to Iron Maiden while making barbecue ribs.
Love it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and jump right in because I know we have a little bit more to cover before we get into Q&A.
Okay.
So let's go to our next slide, which is essay writing resources. So I'm going to ask, well, I'll have my colleague share out these resources in a little bit. So if you want to go to the next slide, we'll have these different areas. So when this is shared out, we'll share each of the links, but there is a supplemental essay prompt database where you can look through all of the different prompts that will be used by different universities each year. So they will help you get those juices turning so that you're able to think through what you want your essay to be about. Common App has some really great essay writing tips that will help you think through how to write effective essay, not only for your Common App essay, but either supplemental as well. And then lastly, scholarship essay. So many universities use essays to consider you for scholarships. At WashU, we actually use it for our supplemental essay for merit scholarships for each division. So ensuring that you are really highlighting your passion for the program and the university all in one. So these are super helpful resources. Next, we will switch gears into WashU's admissions philosophy and aid. So the next slide really highlights who we are as a university. So we strive to inspire, support, and guide outstanding students from all different backgrounds that have all different academic interests. We believe in removing barriers for students and responding to each need. Our unofficial motto at WashU is to know each student and honestly each person by name and by story. And we do that all the way beginning with our admissions process. Our next slide highlights the admissions process for first-year students at WashU. So WashU accepts 3 different applications. The first is QuestBridge, and that is our earliest round. That is usually due on November 1st. We also are a school that has early decision, and you can apply to these early decision and regular decision through the Common App or Coalition application. We do not have a preference between those. With early decision, it is a binding agreement with the university that you're essentially saying that this is my top choice university. If I'm accepted, I have done all my research, I will 100% enroll if I am admitted. And then we all get to jump up and with joy when you are admitted. We have 2 different deadlines, early decision 1 and early decision 2. The difference is just the deadline. They're both binding. We know that many students, it takes a little while to know what is your number 1 choice. So early decision 2 is always really helpful. It also gives you the opportunity, if you maybe have struggled with your high school career and you really are excited to show off your grades as senior fall semester, you can use those scores as part of your application and early decision too. And then lastly, but not least, is regular decision. So that is January 2nd, that it is due. We have 5 elements of the application that we consider when we are admitting students. We look for academic preparedness in 2 ways. One is through the transcript. So we are looking at your academic career and success. We're seeing what are the courses that are offered at your high school, and are you challenging yourself to take those rigorous courses and doing well? We know not every single high school has the opportunity to have higher level courses. So for example, let's say your high school has 29 AP courses available. One, we do not expect you to take all of those AP credits. I don't think that's possible. We want you to have a life. We want you to breathe. But we want to see that you're taking those challenging courses. Let's say your high school doesn't have any AP courses. We will never hold that against you. We always look at the student within the context of their experience and environment. Next, test scores. We accept both the ACT and SAT. We do not have a preference between the two. With those, we do super score. So we're an institution that does super score, essentially meaning that if you've taken the test more than once, we will take the highest score within each section. We will have information if anything changes with our testing. So make sure that you're keeping a lookout at all the institutions you're interested to see any testing requirements that have been changed. Next, letters of recommendation. And I have to say, beyond essays, this is probably my favorite part of reading an application, is an opportunity for others to share more about you. We require 2 letters of recommendation. One is from a counselor, so a guidance counselor or college counselor. The second is from a core content teacher. And we are really learning so much about you, who you are, how you interact with not only students, but other faculty, and how you might play a role on a college campus. Next is extracurriculars. So we have students from all different environments. So maybe you are a really great athlete. I was not. Or maybe you are part of a student organization that you're really proud of. Perhaps you have a part-time job or you take care of a loved one after school. We really want to know what takes up your time, what you're passionate about, what you care about. It's very helpful for us to learn what role you might play on our institution's campus. And lastly, what we've been talking about all evening is college essays. So along with the Common App Coalition or QuestBridge essays, we do have a supplemental essay, and it is what is something that sparks or really piques your intellectual curiosities and interest. It honestly can be anything. It could be a book that you read, a quote that you saw on the side of a building on a beautiful mural. Maybe it's something that your grandma used to say to you when you're little. We want to know what really intrigues you to learn. We do take this essay into consideration when we are doing scholarships for divisions. So let's say that you are very interested in pre-med. You would have the opportunity to really highlight that interest in the supplemental essay and be considered for a merit scholarship. For more details, you can always go to our website, which is admissions@wustl.edu. Next slide is our financial aid. So WashU is incredibly fortunate to be able to offer 100% a demonstrated need met for all admitted students. So meaning that if your family's estimated financial contribution is X amount, WashU's financial aid package will make up the rest. In addition, if your family makes less than $75,000 a year, your financial aid package will not include any loans. We are very much about knowing students by name and by story, and this is also part of our financial aid philosophy. We want to personalize your financial aid award to fit you and your family's needs. We know that all the forms don't always capture every situation, so we want to always have a people first mentality around that. So with that, we'll go into our Connect with Us page. So we have admissions officers that recruit all across the country and world. So while we're not able to travel right now, each of you has an admissions officer. So whenever you go to our website, you can see who it is, you can see our photo, and just a little bit about us. I always like to say, reach out to your admissions officer. We want to know more about you, and it's especially helpful beyond the application and the essay. So if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to us with those questions. We are in the business of admitting students. We want to learn as much as possible about you, and don't feel like any question is too silly. We really want to be there for you. We do have the opportunity to do virtual information sessions with our platform Zoom. So if you are interested in attending a live virtual info session, you could do that by visiting our website, and you can sign up for that virtual information session. It's about 30 minutes of information about WashU, and then you get a quick Q&A with an admissions officer, and then we have an opportunity to meet with some of our student interns that share about their experience both on campus and in the classroom at WashU. And then lastly, we know that you may not have the opportunity to visit our campus, but we have a really beautiful virtual tour where you can see our campus. I will admit I do our virtual tour just because I miss how beautiful our campus is and seeing everyone's face. So it's a great opportunity to do that. So with that, we can go into any questions. All right, so one of the questions we have been getting is, what is the most important thing to demonstrate or show about myself in the writing of a college essay? Valencia, are you able to hear us and answer this?
I can hear you all. I hope you all can hear me. Oh, great. Hello, everyone. Hi. Great question, by the way. I'm excited to be a part of the conversation. Gosh, the most important thing that you want to demonstrate, I really think it depends on essentially what it is that they're asking you for. But if we want to just think about like the personal statement aspect of it, I think what is important is to demonstrate your core values, if that makes sense. So I always like to think about individual values and how they represent and reflect who you are as a person. So I think that no matter what it is that you're communicating, whether it's through a narrative, whether it's through a montage format, no matter if you're specifically addressing a academic interest, there's always ways to tie those things back to your core values so that we as a reader can understand the very essence of who you are as a person. There are other aspects of your application that will help us understand your academic vitality, but this is your one chance for us to really get to know you by name through your story. So don't miss out on that opportunity. So I would definitely say that's what I would lean into as you're thinking about what you want to make sure that you write about. So what is the one thing that we absolutely positively need to know about you? And that's what you should make sure you don't forget.
Yes, perfect. What are some of the best essays you have ever read?
Do you want to go or me or you?
I'll let you go for this one. I'll go. I'll share mine too.
Gosh. So I'm gonna be transparent. I don't have a like favorite that I just walk away with. And I am a person that thinks about how I feel, if that makes sense. So it's not always about the subject for me. It's not about what you're writing about, but it's how you write about it. And so my favorite essays aren't necessarily about a specific topic, but they're the ones that make me excited to know more about the person, or someone that can draw me in as a reader and make me excited about whatever it is that they're talking about. So they could be talking about engineering, they could be talking about their identities, they could be talking about a mission trip, but just being able to hear their voice and then being able to connect with me as a reader, those are the essays that I'm excited about. And those are the ones that are actually my favorite. So I hope that's not too broad, but generally the ones that make me smile, those are my favorites.
I would say the same thing. Even if it's about a really tough topic, if I'm able to feel something after reading it, it's just like, I want to read that again. Or I would say my other flip side of a favorite app or essay would be if they're talking about a topic and I literally have to go to another browser and start reading all about it. And it does slow me down a little bit with application reading. But when a student can hook me into just a random idea, topic, event that happened, I love when that is able to go through. All right, so let's look. How will colleges work with high schools switching to pass-fail systems given the current climate?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. And, you know, we understand that this is a very unique, unprecedented time. And I always want people to remember that we're here to be advocates for students. And so how your school decides to award grade markings is completely out of your control. And so one of the benefits of having a holistic admissions process, such as the one that WashU has, it allows us to consider all aspects of your application and also allows us to consider multiple aspects to assess academic vitality. So please don't worry about pass fail, A, B, C. It's more about making sure you're mastering that content so that you are comfortable with advancing in that particular subject area and that you're putting your best foot forth. We will worry about that other piece of pass fail. We are certainly here to be advocates, and we will be receptive and nimble to whatever grading system that your school administration decides is best to assess your academic progress.
Yep, I would say with that, the additional information area in the application, you could write what is going on at your school. Your counselors are really communicating with us and letting us know. But if you feel like you need to share additional context, always feel free to use that area of the application just to highlight what your experience was, if you want to share a little bit more. There is a big question. What are essay topics that are overused or ones that students should avoid?
Gosh, overused. You know, I try not to say that something is overused because, again, I really believe in the philosophy. It's not what you write about, how you write about it. I mean, even if you reflect on the activity that you all just did, you all essentially were all responding to the same question, but you all had different answers. So I would say that there's not, if I had to say which ones are popular, definitely I tend to see service-oriented ones. So things that opportunities about mission trips. I tend to see a lot of, and again, I want to stress this is not overused. These are just ones that we see frequently. There's certainly some essays about identity tends to be one that I see a lot, varying facets of identity or how they are starting to better understand or express their identity and what that means to them. I certainly have seen an uptick in even some areas or subject areas that people might traditionally think is taboo. So mental health, the stigma associated with that, I'm starting to see an uptick in essays written about that. And of course, we see quite a bit of essays centered around challenge, whether that's something that they're experiencing in their personal life or something perhaps in an academic setting that they've been able to overcome. So again, those are a little bit more broad themes, but those are some of the ones that I'm starting to see more frequently in the applications that I've had the privilege of reading. Jessica, do you have any that stick out to you?
Yeah, so I would definitely echo everything that you just shared. About 2 years ago, after Infinity War, which I hope I'm getting that right. So Marvel Cinematic Universe. There, I was reading a lot of Marvel essays, and I think with some of them I was bawling because I also watched it and was crying, but some of them it just felt like it missed the mark. And I think that's where any essay, regardless of what you're writing about, you can have that pitfall is if you are not sharing a piece of yourself, you're not really connecting it to you, you're just writing about a topic that you think we want to hear about. There's still first gen immigrant stories of immigrating to the United States that I feel so much when I'm reading them. Same with any other type of essay, but it's just that piece that you're not really connecting yourself to that story, and it just feels like there is a barrier and a disconnect between who you are and what you are writing about. So great question. So another question, what can make or break an essay for WashU or college in general?
Do you want to start, or I can?
I would say there's very little that could really break an essay. We are trying our best to find pieces of you, to really advocate, find who you are. I would say intolerance, things that are just not welcomed on our campus. We are a very collaborative, supportive, inclusive environment. So I would say that is probably one of the only things I can think of where you are sharing something that just doesn't align with our core values as an institution. Valencia, do you have any make or breaks?
I certainly think that failing to write on the prompt is going to be a make or break. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but most often when we're asking the questions we're asking, it is because there's a certain part of your identity or your interest that we're trying to further familiarize ourselves with. So not writing on the prompt as asked, which certainly to me would be a make or break. Again, Jessica's point about perhaps writing on a topic that demonstrates an intolerance or imbalance perspective would probably be challenging to overcome. And I probably would also say, yeah, I think that those would be the ones that stick out to me. Of course, being grammatically correct, right? That is something, again, a given. But other than that, I really think that students, for the most part, can write about most anything. It's just a matter of using that space as a space of advocacy and not missing out on the opportunity to add a layer or dimension to your application. So it's not a make or break, but sometimes a missed opportunity in that space is when students use that to essentially write about something that they have already shared in the application. So they're not introducing anything new or an added dimension about them. And they just look at it as a missed opportunity, perhaps not a make or break, but certainly a missed opportunity.
Yeah. What do you feel like, or what do you feel that a WashU student looks like in terms of their values, or what values do you feel makes a student a good fit at WashU? I can kick us off with being collaborative. We are an institution that really believes that there's room for everyone at the top. So that competitiveness is really friendly. I would say our students are competitive, but in a really friendly way to ensure that we're all achieving great things together. WashU students, they are incredibly kind. I know when I was on campus, my first day, I got lost and I would just ask one student and they would just offer to walk you to where you needed to go. And it's like, that's 15 minutes out of your way. But they would totally do that. So I think that collaborative nature, also intensely curious is a piece that really defines WashU. We always strive to learn more and continuously improve ourselves. Valencia, anything to add?
Gosh, I think that those would be the ones that I would lean into the most. But I also love that our students often are global citizens. And what I mean by that is they are certainly aware and engaged in things outside of themselves. And I think that is what makes the Washington University community great. And I think that that's certainly a core value in addition to that intellectual curiosity and collaborativeness that Jessica referenced. So I think those are great.
Great. So next question, what resources does WashU have in place to support first generation or low income students? Valencia, do you want to kick us off on this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So as a first gen student myself, I'm always excited to be a part of these conversations. We really value the perspective and the energy and all that our first generation and populations and students from low income backgrounds bring to our campus community. And for us, it's about making sure that regardless of what your background is in terms of educational attainment and or financial resources, that you are connected to resources that allow or encourage you to be successful on our campus. And that success is important to us and vital inside and outside of the classroom. And so what I mean by that is sometimes it might be a matter of, for example, financial resources. So we are a institution that meets 100% of demonstrated need. We ensure that we know that students who have expressed need to us, that we want to make sure that affordability is not a barrier to a Washington University education. I'm sure Jess also probably mentioned our no loan policy for families who with a household income of under $75,000 annually. In addition to that, Washington University recently introduced a startup grant. So those are university funded grants, in which case students are allocated 2 lump sums, one first prior to the beginning of the fall semester and again in the spring. And that money is used for the purchase of instructional materials, potentially a computer and or things that you as a student may need. It appears in a bookstore credit as well as money that is directly funded to you as a student for you to use. Thinking even beyond those particular things, we do have our Student Success Fund, which is housed in our Office for Student Success. And essentially, the Office for Student Success is home to our Deneb Stars program, which is a community that is specifically created to support students who are first generation students and or from low income families. But essentially, within that fund, students, again, are connected to financial resources for them to use, whether it's an emergency trip that they need to go home, whether it's a professional development opportunity that they simply don't have the funds to do. Some of the things that perhaps are not a fiscal resource, but we want to address would be housing and or food insecurity. So providing resources as it relates to that. We've done clothing closets. We take students on graduate trips in terms of being able to assist them with visits for graduate schools. But some of the things that maybe are not a fiscal resource, but is important is, again, building community. So I love that piece. The Deneb Stars, they have the weekend wind down on Fridays. And so they get together, they have food, they talk about their wins, they talk about maybe some areas of opportunity. And it's just a place that's so welcoming and inviting for you to be among people who share identities such as yourself. We also offer funding for students to participate in student activities through our student government as well. So there are a host of resources beyond that may meet the eye that are available to students, again, in fiscal resources, academic resources, but also making sure that we have a community that's inclusive. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much. A question that keeps coming up is what's the number one reason why students aren't accepted to university? And I keep seeing it up there and I can't find it right now. What are popular reasons why people don't get accepted into the college of their choice? I would say for one reason for WashU is we have a very small incoming first year class. So while there are many individuals that we know would be great community members, great community fits, could do the work and do really great at WashU, there's unfortunately not space available. That is unfortunately the crux of highly selective universities. There may be other reasons for other universities, such as a cutoff for testing or GPA, whatever it might be. But I know that's one of the biggest barriers for our institutions, just the sheer size of our university. Valencia, anything to add?
I'd certainly agree. I think space continues to be the largest challenge. I think for me, I've been doing this for a number of years. I won't say how many to age myself, but every single year, there are wonderful students that we've been able to connect with throughout the application process who certainly would be an asset to our community, but we just simply do not have the space for that student in our class. And so I understand that that might be a pretty broad or vague response, but certainly I would say space continues to be the university's largest challenge for us as we think about creating a community of students each year.
Great. I think we're almost out of time. So I wanted to give us a quick opportunity, just one piece of advice that we might want to give to these students. Valencia, do you want to kick us off?
Just generally or about the essay?
Essay, application?
Gosh. Anything. You know, I would say I would encourage people to stay encouraged. A lot of times, one of the things that is somewhat disappointing in this profession is sometimes students are so overwhelmed in this process that they lose sight of how great they really are and all the things that you've accomplished. And even in the midst of no's, your yes will come. And no matter what happens, be proud of the things that you've accomplished and that you are the person that assigns value to who you are, to the things that you accomplished, and to the person that you eventually become. So I would definitely say be encouraged and be patient with yourself, would be my words of advice.
Love it. I would just say, pay attention to your spiritual health, your mental health, whatever it might be, and really take the opportunity to just breathe. I know this is a challenging time, and thinking about essays might also bring additional stress. So know that we are here. We are also human, dealing with working from home. We are doing it right along with you. So we're really here to help guide and support you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys, especially that was like a strong wrap too. So thank you so much, Valencia, Jessica, and Ryan over there in the chat box. He's been making moves this whole time. So we're grateful for all three of you. So we're hoping that all of you in the audience are feeling a lot more confident about your essays and the application process overall. And so drop your thanks in the chat box for everybody here. And before our next presentation, we do need your help. WashU has included a post survey, and the button link down below, you can see it right in the middle that says complete survey. So it should take you like 2 minutes. So if you could do that, that would be super helpful for us. And then once you're done, don't go anywhere because we have Tufts presentation coming up. So for those of you that were asking about the presentation in Spanish, that is going to be happening in just a few minutes. And you'll be hearing from students themselves about their experience on campus. Awesome. Thanks, ladies.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.